Right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the November Cabinet meeting for Rushcliffe Borough Council. We'll start off with apologies for absence. Laura.
No apologies, Chairman.
Thank you. Declarations of interest? None at all. No, thank you. Minutes of the last meeting held on 9th of October 2018. If I could have a proposer to accept those minutes, please.
Propose.
Yeah. Councillor Mason, seconder. All those in favour? Thank you very much indeed. Item 4. Do we have any questions at all this week? No, thank you. Any citizens' questions? No. Okay, so we'll go straight on to the key decisions on section 8, which is the strategic land acquisition for potential crematorium. For me. So it's important to establish this report is about the principle of the crematorium, and this is really the report supporting this actual principle, which is reflected in the recommendations. It's obviously the main thing. It sets out the actual location and also the background to the location and the supporting information. If I could ask members just to look at 5.1, under 5.1, I think that really sets out the sort of criteria against which we looked at the project and the actual sites there. Some of those have legal requirements set out in the 1902 Cremation Act. And then obviously the others there are against, is a test of the location against its suitability. We've actually had an agent working on behalf, Peter Mitchell Associates, who are bereavement specialists, who's obviously helped in terms of the initial research for us. The other key thing I'd like to stress to the Cabinet here is the lack of risk to the Council. As always with these things, we pride ourselves on being entrepreneurial, but I think we also pride ourselves in managing the risk. I think what this report does and proposal gives an excellent balance in making sure that we minimise the risk of the council as we go forward, with using Mercia as our partners. And as a stress on there in terms of the land that we are negotiating an option on there, in which if we don't proceed, it will not be a penalty to the actual council. But there's a key milestone that a business plan will be brought back in mid-2019 for consideration by this Cabinet. With one of the major two options of there is that is it something we should run ourselves, is it something we should outsource, or is it something we still proceed with? I mean, that's probably obviously a third option there as well. But essentially the initial research, which I think is set out very well in Appendix A and Appendix B, which identifies the location and also the geographical area, is good supporting information that we're confident that there is a very viable proposal to put forward here. I think it was interesting that it's been remarked that there are a lot of shortcomings at Wilford Hill. This isn't the only reason why this has been put forward, but it is a major contributor that personally I feel that Wilford Hill does not provide the service that we should be providing to our residents. And I was reminded yesterday that waiting times for Wilford Hill now can be as long as 3 weeks, which I think is absolutely totally unacceptable. It's a reflection of the pressure on that facility. It's also very clear the facility hasn't been invested in. I also believe there aren't plans to invest in there at the moment. And I think that again really undermines the need and the requirement for a crematorium project within Rushcliffe. But I stress that I'm very conscious we don't want the risk, that we must manage this project very carefully. This will go to planning if it is approved tonight in around December. They'll be put forward by Mercia. And again, I want to underline there will be full consultation both at planning and post planning as well as we go forward, with re-emphasis that a business plan will come back to the Cabinet in around mid-2019. So without any further ado, I'd like to propose the recommendations which are set out on page 8, sorry, on page 7, section 2. I won't read them out, but essentially it's about the principle and bringing it back to Cabinet in mid-2019. Thank you. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Mason.
I thought it was.
Sorry, beg your pardon. I thought you put a hand up
No,
there.
sir.
So, Councillor Moore.
Yeah, thank you. Without repeating too much of what you said, I've written a few notes. Obviously, we have significant population growth in Rushcliffe. I think we all know the number of houses that are going to be built, and I think this is really needed. Your comments about Wilford Hill, I've actually written here that Wilford Hill is somewhat tired. And I think that's a polite way of putting it. As I think you all know, it's city owned, but it's in Rushcliffe, and I don't think it's been revamped for many, many years. It's an ideal site. It's convenient for public transport, and I was very pleased to see that it will be a secular crematorium to deal with the multitude of religions that are in our society these days. I was pleased to see there will be an item E, as has been mentioned by the chairman. There will be a further report in mid-2019 with a more detailed business plan that we can have some further action on it. So really this is work in progress, and I'm really pleased to be able to second the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Upton.
I'd just make a comment, Chair, that for many, many years, my residents in Radcliffe-on-Trent parish have complained about the general delay on getting to Wilford Hill, and at peak times of the year, unacceptable delays, as you intimate, 2 or 3 weeks or more. So I think there is certainly a need for more capacity in the crematorium to serve the Vale of Belvoir, Rushcliffe and the small villages round about, because that's the feedback I have had and I get, and from personal experience I just find the place not fit for purpose, as you say, tired and well, it's not a good experience going there. The surroundings and the facilities, I think, are, well, it must be probably 100 years old plus, I don't know, but it feels it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's also just important we do stress that a business plan isn't just about the population today, it's also about growth. If you have a look at the position of this proposal, where it is, the growth out there towards Bingham, the growth in Cotgrave as well, in Radcliffe. So in terms of positioning wise, I think this is an excellent location to help service that growth in the population as we go forward. Okay, so proposed by myself, seconded by Councillor Moore. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Item 7, which is the potential reorganisation of local government in Nottinghamshire. As we're aware, there was a motion passed at full council in 2017 where Rushcliffe Borough Council is committed to engage in upper tier authorities in terms of anything to do with reorganisation. I think that was very important, that it just shows our residents that we are open to reorganisation negotiations, subject to some very, very strict conditions about the quality of services that we provide to our residents. So moving on, in July 2018, the County Council adopted a motion to produce a business case to support unitary status. So bearing in mind that our motion that we have on that, obviously the County Council have come out now in July 2018 to declare that they are going to produce the business case. Now, unfortunately, there has not been the sort of opportunity to have full consultation on this, on the actual process in putting together the business plan. And as it says in the report, is that currently there's been no official governance arrangements put in place through Borough Council leadership to participate, inform or assist of the work of Nottinghamshire County Council. Now, I don't want to comment on this. They are what they are, and obviously it's the County Council are actually driving this, but it is very important that on behalf of our residents that we do respond to this as the business case comes to fruition. And in terms of timeline, there will be, we understand, a business plan put to full council of the County Council in December. So this proposal really lays out there our response to do that, to make sure that we have a structure in place that can report back then to full council and give the Rushcliffe view in terms of the proposals and the business case that's actually put forward. The terms of, so what we are proposing here is to put together a cross-party working member group. The terms of reference are set out there in Appendix 1. As you'll see there, that it will consist of 9 councillors. The chairman of the group will be a member of the cabinet, and as I stress, their membership be cross-party and representative of the council. And again, I think that's very important that we have that full range of opinions participating in that group, and I'm hopeful and I'm sure that our members of the opposition will put forward and contribute very fully to that working group. It's anticipated, subject to cabinet approval tonight, that the work will commence in November and report its findings back in 2019. The terms of reference set out there in Appendix A. I don't mean to go through them, but as you can see there, it's important that we do stick to those terms of reference and that we advertise the fact that we will be reporting back to them. So I think this is a pragmatic, I think it's timely, and I think it's a suitable way in which this council should respond. Undoubtedly, there will be reorganisation at some time, and I think it would be incredibly naive of this council just to sit here and wait for things to happen. I think this is an excellent step, and as I say, it's in response to the county council. Will be set up, ready to go as the business plan comes out, subject obviously to being approved there in December 2018 over at County Hall. So based on that information there, I'd like to propose the recommendations that are set out on page 18, section 2. Do I have a seconder for this? Councillor Mason, you got this right this time?
I do. Thank you. Yes, I should like to second the recommendation. I think it's really important that it's a cross-party and a task and finish working group. I think it's the best possible way of bringing all the information that hopefully that we will get and be able to look at and study to give a thorough and considered answer to what we think may be happening and which the County Council have actually looked at as well. There are some issues on it, and I'm sure there are quite a few options that are going forward on this, but I think we need to draw together all these options, all the information, and look at it cross-party. So I fully agree on the recommendations going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Or Councillor Moore?
I just think to raise the point that when we talk about timescale, it might be a bit earlier due to the elections in Perth, so it might be a little bit earlier than end of April.
What, in terms of the reporting back?
Yes.
Yeah.
Could be the end of March.
Yeah.
Might have to.
Well, obviously that will be in the remit of the committee to actually come back on that in terms of, and then actually where it actually goes, because it is, and of course you've also possibly got the Brexit implications as well around this time as well. So there are a lot of factors to be brought into play, and I stress this obviously is subject to the county council passing their resolutions and business case back in December as well. So okay, so the recommendation set out page 18, section 2, proposed by myself, seconded by Councillor Mason. All those in favour? Thank you very much indeed. We move on to section 8, and for you to reflect the sensitivity you have to talk about, I need to make an announcement on this item, the following 3 item agendas, and that's to move that under regulation 21(1)(b) of the Local Authorities Executive Arrangement, Access to Information, England Regulations 2000, that the public be excluded from the meeting for the following items of business on the grounds that they involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 3 of part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act of 1972. So, unfortunately, I do need to ask that members of the public please need to leave for the following three items. Thank you. Okay, we move on to. Oh, sorry. Do we need to have a vote on the on that?
No, you've moved it.
You just moved it.
No,
Okay.
Just read the statement.
Just made a statement. Okay. Okay. Item 9 is the Cotgrave marketing outcomes. Councillor Edavine.
Yeah, we have before us the follow-up to the cabinet decision in June this year to explore options for the trade of shops that had previously not been under our control when the first phase of the shop redevelopment was started alongside the new multi-service centre at Cotgrave. In June, we authorised a marketing exercise with a view to report how we should redevelop the trade of shops, whether we should do it ourselves or look at other alternatives, and all those alternatives have been looked at. This recommendation is that we do indeed develop the trade of shops ourselves. It is subject to the largest unit within the proposal having in place a pre-let agreement with the identified. We're looking to create a large unit with 3 other units of smaller size, and this proposal fits in with the Council's investment strategy for owning income generating assets, and the projected income from this development when fully let is just over £103,000. Sorry, I haven't got my mic on. Of all the options considered in the marketing exercise, the proposal before us delivers the best financial outcome in the shortest timescale. It's perhaps pertinent that yesterday we actually hosted a seminar of all of Nottinghamshire's councils, and which one of the keynote speakers was Bill Grimsby, or Grimsey, author of the Grimsey Reports. The Grimsey Report addresses the future of our high street and town centres, and I think it's worth mentioning that the redevelopment of the town centre complex in its entirety at Cotgrave provides exactly the mix of community use and retail environment that the report says are essential, along with adjacent residential accommodation. This, along with the demolition of the old building in the square and the creation of a public realm, delivers the final phase of the Cotgrave redevelopment plan, and I believe we should be proud of this achievement and its positive impact on Cotgrave as a place and on the people of Cotgrave. I therefore do propose this motion as set out in paragraph 2 of the report, and that is that we should proceed with an investment in phase 2 of the Cotgrave Town Centre regeneration scheme to deliver 4 new units of approximately 4,000, 1,200, 1,500 and 1,600 square feet, subject, as I said earlier, to that pre-let agreement. We should therefore make a provision in the 2019 and 20 capital programme to support the delivery of phase 2 to be funded in accordance with the section 151 officer's recommendation. I therefore move that motion.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Upton.
Thank you, Chairman. This report highlights yet again, in my opinion, the significant help and investment that this council has and continues to give the Cotgrave community that was devastated when its pit closed. Many such mining communities have struggled to cope with such a blow, but by working with partners and making our own investment, this council has helped Cotgrave to become the thriving, forward-looking community that it now is. It will have a regenerated town centre and a multi-service centre housing police, health, library and voluntary services, and improved car parking and landscaping to the public realm. There's a relatively new primary school and leisure centre with a swimming pool, and 470 new homes, 30% of which are affordable, on the former pit site, adjacent to a new country park. This council has also provided new employment opportunities for the village, with the building of 15 new light industrial units to complement the existing ones, and more housing is proposed. quite a turnaround from when the pit closed and the future looked bleak. I'm very pleased to second this recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Litton. Any other comments on the Cockgrave? I think I'd just like to add, I sat on the Cockgrave board for a number of years, and I think it really is a fantastic achievement of all the partners involved in Cockgrave that we're now bringing this to fruition. And to be there last Friday to see the opening of the multi-service centre was a real milestone, to see it actually go from plans to actually build out, and the difference it's going to make to Cockgrave. I think always the community hub is going to drive the footfall, and on the back of that, I think there are significant opportunities in terms of the retail, and this is really what will facilitate it. I'm delighted it says in 4.7 is that our current lettings on there, I think we've got, is it 7 out of the 9, Mrs. Marriott, that have been let there at the moment there, so it just shows you the interest, it shows you the vitality. And the big investment that Cockgrave is getting, and certainly deserves to get in terms of going forward. So this is ambitious. I think it's a great blueprint for the way that the public sector should work going forward. It's not just about one organisation. It's been about a lot of public partners, private partners getting together with one aim, and that's to bring the very, very best to Cockgrave. And this, I think, is very, very key in terms of the next phase to actually going that forward. So, proposed by Councillor Edderveen, seconded by Councillor Upton. All those in favour of the recommendation? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda, item 10, is the Fair and Pastures Growth Deal Funding Employment Units. Councillor Edderveen again.
Thank you. Again, we have a report in front of us here which is to do with Fair and Pastures and delivery of the infrastructure in Fair and Pastures. This is a two-pronged recommendation that will have a significant impact on ensuring our ability to facilitate the delivery of this important strategic housing and employment site. We have previously identified our desire to use money initially granted to us by the LEP for other purposes, which is no longer required in those areas, and to assist in the delivery of the infrastructure to this site. And we have negotiated with the LEP in order to do that. And we now propose that we, in the first instance, offer an interest-free loan of up to £2.5 million over a 2-year period to the developer CWC to accelerate infrastructure delivery and hence overall delivery of housing and employment sites. The significance of this is that it will be used towards the £4.5 million cost of putting electrical services to the whole site as part of the upfront infrastructure. Without the loan, the developer will deliver the infrastructure in phases, and we believe that in order to facilitate the site's delivery, then it's very important that we get all the infrastructure in place up front, and that is the purpose of this. The loan itself will be provided by the council over a 2-year period, and will have all of the necessary legal agreements in place and the safeguards for the council's money. We also propose, as the second part of this paper, that the council invests 1.14 million of our asset investment strategy monies, along with the £2.5 million of LEP funding that we have available. And this will be used to build a development of industrial units for small businesses to be owned and managed by Rushcliffe Borough Council. The proposal meets and indeed exceeds the original requirements set out by the LEP for funding delivery of housing and jobs, inasmuch as it delivers 3,000 houses and 2,000 jobs. The annual income projected for the industrial units to the council is forecast at £94,000, based on a 90% occupancy, and our experience of letting and owning similar units, or owning and letting similar units, is very positive in supporting this ambition. So I therefore propose that we adopt the recommendation set out in paragraph 2 of the report.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder? Yes. Councillor Mason.
Thank you. I think this is really important that we invest for the future of this site. I don't believe that we can afford to let this site development drag on, whether it's housing or, as here, employment units. We need to move forward with this in delivering the sites. The risks of not doing so are quite severe, and we look at housing across the borough that is being built in places that we don't want to build, and it is being taken out of our hands, and we need to take back control. So I'm looking at this as an investment for the future, for the site, and to drive things forward so that we do not have unacceptable development in the borough. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's very important. I think the old models where we gave planning permission for big sites and sat back and just allowed them to get on with it are finished now. I think it's really, this is now the modern world that you have to provide this assistance. You have to be creative to make sure that we can get these sites going, because they are an incredible risk for developers and for landowners, etc. In a very, very difficult market. So I think this is timely. I think it's appropriate. Should also add, of course, within the 3,000 allocation, there's a substantial amount of affordable houses. So we'll continue to be the biggest deliverer of affordable houses in the county. I think that's really important in terms of addressing that. I think Councillor Edwin made that point that this will help fund the total electrical supply right across the site. So not just for the industrial units, but obviously for the housing as well. And these are very big costs for people to take up front when it can take many, many years to build these out. So it's such an important site, as it's a major highway into Rushcliffe. It's been dragging on for some time, and I think it's time that this council did step up, took its responsibility, and I think this package will have a significant and very positive impact on the site itself. Any other comments at all to Councillor Upton?
I've got to say, haven't I, with my planning and housing portfolio, anything that potentially moves this strategic housing site forward is to be welcomed by me.
No, absolutely, and I think Councillor Mason and Councillor Edwin have stressed that it is about our 5-year housing supply. But as I say, I think it's more than that. It's also about the affordable housing. It's about the jobs, and it really is the prosperity of the authority of Rushcliffe that is key in this across many dimensions. And this is one of the obviously prime sites to deliver on. So, okay, without any further ado, this is the recommendations are set out by Councillor Edwin, seconded by Councillor Mason. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Okay, the final item on the agenda is the depot relocation. Councillor Upton.
Thank you. The Abbey Road depot is not fit for purpose, well beyond its sell-by date, a nuisance to its residential neighbours, and indeed in need of significant expenditure to keep it operational. It's a prime residential development site for which we have a time-limited grant offer from Homes England Land Release Fund, which expires in March 2020, 15 months' time. This report is about relocating services from Abbey Road Depot to allow its redevelopment. Not to vacate Abbey Road site would fail to deliver on our strategic ambition to develop our property portfolio and to deliver community benefits. In February this year, Cabinet approved a lease for Streetwise at Chapel Lane, Bingham, with a view to relocating our green waste there as well, and co-locating our green and blue bin services elsewhere with another public sector partner. However, Streetwise has undertaken a detailed review of the Bingham site and concluded, for a number of reasons, principally that they want to be in the greater West Bridgford area where their main client base is, and also operational costs, that site at Bingham is not suitable. This report gives a revised proposal to locate all our recycling services to the East Croft depot, whilst allowing Streetwise time to find an alternative base to Abbey Road. The proposal for East Croft is for initial licence for 5 years from Nottingham City Council and payment of a workplace parking levy for the affected staff. The Eastcroft site already has much of the infrastructure that we need for our recycling services, and the site works well operationally. Some capital works would be required, such as new glass recycling bays, fitting out of office and locker room facilities, but many facilities, such as vehicle washing, fuel pumps, already exist. Most importantly, following extensive searches, it's the only viable option currently available. A decision not to move to Eastcroft would seriously compromise our strategy of relocating from Abbey Road by March 2020 and put at risk our significant financial grant offer from Homes England. This proposal does create an anticipated net revenue budget pressure and an anticipated capital cost, and these are all detailed in the report. But the proposed disposal of the Abbey Road site could offset most, if not all, of these costs. The recommendation is set out in item 2 of the report as follows. A, Cabinet approves the relocation of the whole Recycling to Go service to operate from Nottingham City Council's Eastcroft Depot for an initial licence term of 5 years. B, authorises the Executive Manager Neighbourhoods to negotiate the final details of the licence agreement with Nottingham City Council. C, approves payment of the workplace parking levy for those staff affected by the move. D, permits Streetwise Environmental Limited to remain on the Abbey Road site until October 2019 to support their endeavours to find an alternative site, the outcome of which will be reported back to Cabinet. E, Cabinet endorses continued council support to Streetwise Environmental Limited to find an alternative operating base. And finally, F, notes the cost pressures identified within the report and that these will be included within the council's medium-term financial strategy. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Have a seconder. Councillor Edwin.
Yeah, just to support what Councillor Upton has very comprehensively covered. I think it's good to see that this is good collaboration with the City Council, and indeed we already get our van, all of the vehicles serviced at that depot. So you know it's all working together. And yeah, really this is all about making sure that we can efficiently move those services elsewhere, and B, use the timescale to vacate the Abbey Road site and make sure that we can use the grant from Homes England to further its development, basically. So fully support this motion.
Right. Thank you very much. I think it's worth mentioning that this is a good example about partnership between public sector bodies as well. It doesn't just have to be about local districts and things. Obviously the city, certainly from my point of view in talking to them, have been very good in terms of negotiating this. They've been very amiable. They understand the need. Obviously there are finances behind it, but I'm delighted now that after quite a lot of negotiation we can actually move forward with this. And as Councillor Edwin said, that we've had now the repair contract for how long? That must be quite a few years now, isn't it? We've had the repair contract.
Last 4 years, Chairman.
4 years, yeah. And I think generally it's worked well. It's helped us because it's absolutely key to this council to have a very efficient and effective waste team in all dimensions. And location is key because I'm sure we could find sites a long way away, but keeping these the big lorries on the go, keeping somewhere local is really important to service levels, which I'm sure Darryl knows a lot more than I do. So it's an ideal site, and as has been stressed, one of the big objectives that we must try and free this Abbey Road site up and get this back into residential again. Maybe the affordable homes again can come through this, and this is a big step that we've set out with this council a couple of years ago. So I'm very pleased that we've moved forward with this, and let's hope that we can get Streetwise with a good location in the very near future. Looking at the proposals again, recommendation set out on page 50, proposed by Councillor Upton, second by Councillor Edwin. All those in favour? Unanimous. Excellent. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. That concludes the Cabinet meeting for November.